Hey guys, and how's it going? So last we left off with, we had set the plow up on this tractor and I was running around. The cylinder, that is the lift cylinder, goes from here to here. The fitting hit right there and I broke it and it made a mess. Got the fitting out and that's where we left off. So we're going to continue on from there. Where we left off again was taking easy out, getting the broken fitting off. I took a look online at a bunch of different plow setups and the orientation of the cylinders were actually correct. A lot of people were saying, well, flip the cylinders around and all. I have new fittings. I actually have two new fittings. The problem was I think the fitting was pointing straight up and it hit, and a lot of them show it that it's on an angle. So we're gonna go try that. If that doesn't work, we're gonna go work with two fittings and we'll see if we can kind of kick it around. If that doesn't work, we're gonna go modify the tractor so that it has just a little bit more room. That orientation looks a little better, huh? I think that should solve our problem pretty good. We're not gonna have it's going that high. We need a bucket loader. Let's go put some pins in it, put the hydraulic lines on, fire it up, and lift the blade. See how it does. And hopefully all the fluid stays in. Routing might be screwed up too. We'll find out right now. Looks good. Crisis averted. So the rear differential or transmission and the hydraulics is all one unit. What it has is a sight glass in the back, and it's between these points. Generally you want, halfway up the sight glass. Somebody must have replaced it at some point and put a tube in, or broke, and they couldn't get all this hardware back in there, so they let it float on the outside. If you look at it, you can see it's right there. It's right at the bottom. No matter where you move this, it's going to maintain that level. So this orientation doesn't matter as long as it is in between here. Eventually I'm probably just going to tie wrap that to the side, I think, unless I can come up with some different hardware to put it back in. But we're a little low, but not enough to where it's dangerous. I got to get some fluid for it. The stuff that we changed on the floor. It's right there right now, so remind me later, fill that. So next thing we have an issue with is the charge light is on. Now the wiring, I know, in the back of the ignition switch is kind of crappy. I'll show you. That light should be going out and it's not. Probably have an issue with the rectifier regulator, and if so, we'll just end up having to get one. But before I get into that, I want to clean up the mess of wiring that is back here. Because on the very first video, as I was grabbing the wires and moving it around, the lights were coming on and off on the dash, so I do know there is definitely an issue in there. So while we get taking care of some of this mess, and we'll clean it up and see what we get for a response afterwards. See if we get that ignition switch out of there. I'll clean it up anyway. I'm gonna hold it from twisting. started raining. We're supposed to get 1 to 3 inches of rain. It's been all over. And let's go see what the back of that looks like. Let's see. That should be pretty self-explanatory how it goes back on. That's one rusty switch, huh? I need a screwdriver. I get rid of the battery, so there's nothing to short out. Let's see if we can get that. Gingerly slide up. Go right in between. That is a nasty ignition switch. Might have one in my stash, I'm not sure. So I ended up ordering a new switch. It was 13 bucks. We're not even gonna bother screwing with that. We also have to replace the socket altogether because that's actually a terminal right there. I know it's hard to believe. And you can see the back of the wiring, how melted it is and how the jacket is melted in the socket. So that one draws a lot of current. That's probably coming off our charging system and maybe what our issue is, hopefully. But we'll cut them off. We're going to put new terminals on. We're going to get rid of this block altogether, and they're on the bench. I'll show you in a minute. But in the meantime, while I'm waiting for that, I'm going to take the plow blade off, just the yellow part of the blade. So we just have that bolt and that bolt to get off, and maybe start hitting it with a sander and throw some paint on it. Let that cure up while we're waiting. Bolts are out. Let's see how. I shouldn't say the bolts are out. They're unbolted. Now the bolts are out. Should be able to slide it right off. I have a feeling putting it back on may be a little bit more difficult. Take the shoes off of there. Slight adjustment. Good. And away it goes. Here we got a new switch, which I deflowered with a bunch of grease. And we're just gonna go cut everything off that's up there. So these two, somebody added. I don't know if we're gonna be able to get both of those in one terminal. We're going to try anyway. And the terminals, I'll set up behind me. I packed them with grease just to give the ends a fighting chance against corrosion. It's generally what kills everything around my climate. Kind of get it all. I'm just going to throw. I dance back and forth between like greases and silicones and the non-curing silicone. That might do it. Maybe not. I'm a tag team. I think I see wires hanging out of there. That's a good sign. I hope we got a good crimp on it. Ask me why I don't solder it. Good question. Because I don't have the terminals for solder at the moment. Solder. Alright, you guys do it to switch. There it is. Alright, so that one went on the one lug that was independent by itself. And now we have, you guys have a shifter in front of you, don't you? You can't see a thing. How are we going to do this so you and I can see at the same time? We're going to get cozy, I guess. That one is the burned up one. Let's cut it to right there. You get the idea. I'm going to have to move you over and I'll bring you back when I'm done. And the after. A little gooey. That should work. And each one has its own jacket around it to keep it isolated. Because that's the one thing that this thing did have, was kept all of them kind of locked together, you know. Strength in numbers. But I would say that was pretty cooked. That one isn't even okay with doing much of anything, huh? A lot of arcing is about it, and you can see the big melt on the side of the plug. I'm gonna go shove that back in its hole, put the hardware on it, throw a battery pack on it, fire it up and see if the light went out. Alright, see what we get. Catches on fire. The light didn't go out, that's not a good thing. Ah, it did go out. Good. That was the problem with the charging system. I'm happy for that. Because the light was out when we first got the tractor and we're working on it. Alright, what do you want to do next? While I have the battery tray out, I'm just going to go and look over a bunch of connections. I'm going to pop a few of them apart, see if I see any corrosion or anything. Clean them up, grease them, that kind of stuff. The rest of it looks pretty good. If those fuses, if I have any problems in the future, I may just cut them out and kind of do the same with the grease and all, but for now they're already together. I'm just going to leave them on there. Battery tray is back in on one side, and now I just have to do my best finagling to get this with the fuel gauge in it and the trans, and we got to get it under the pan. Actually, I got to unbolt the pan and slide that back, but I think I'm just going to do that without you watching over my shoulder. You make me a little nervous sometimes, just saying. So when I had a rear seat pan on there, the gas tank had some slop in it. It probably had some kind of like felt pads or something under it or above it. I don't have any felt pads. What I do have is a piece of roofing rubber. So I'm going to go slice that up and see if we can lay some of that stuff around to help it not sit there and chatter when it's running, you know. Should be able to do a zip on this. Let's see if that works. A lot easier sitting on the flat bench. Yeah, there you go. I get for trying to be fancy. All right, let's try that again. A little smoother. They make 4 of them. One for the top, one for the bottom each side. Perfectly calibrated to be exact specifications as factory. This is glue. Strong stuff. I just missed a little in there. Slide one of those in there. You thought I was going to put it in upside down, didn't you? Go far forward as we can. Somebody needs a better knife. Number 2. Don't have a better knife, make sure you stick your tip out. Oh, it's got it. Feels better already. Don't know if we're going to need one on top yet. We'll put the tin on it and we'll look. You should get the tin bolts here and here. I don't see. Go find out. Seems pretty flat without hardware. With this hardware, and then the seat bolts kind of sit here. I'll put one right across here, maybe 2. Whatever that height difference is right there. Yeah, we'll go with 2. I ended up putting 4 layers on it. It's almost, I'd say, flush going across now. But before I wrestle that on, if you're going to go for a pop break, you're welcome to one. But all I got left is blue. You're welcome to them. But you're going to have a blue tongue when you're done, just so you know. Answer a question before I close it up. Some people are saying that it is missing the fan on the hydro pump being the rear end transaxle. It generally, I want to say on the cheaper machines, there'll be a fan on the input shaft, probably right about here, and it blows air across the fins of the pump and just has airflow across it. 90% of the time on an older tractor, all the blades will be busted off. They either just get brittle or debris gets up around them and they get and done. This I don't believe has one, but what it does use for cooling is in the front. So it's a hydrostatic trans that has lines that go in a circular pattern. Fluid's always flowing. And it has essentially little radiators right here, and there's another one on the other side there. This is the fan for the engine. Air is getting sucked in through here, so air is getting actually drawn through here. The bottom, it's all finned. I don't know if you can see down in there. No, you're not gonna see any more there. So the 2 sides and the bottom, air kind of comes up and flows through, and it's the cold air. So that is the actual cooling for the oil that's on the transmission. And then the fan continues on. Air blows across the engine, across the fins, and dumps out the bottom. Out of here, there's more shrouding that still has to go on. Essentially just kind of steers it down towards the bottom or out towards the front of the hood. The radiator is pretty much doing the opposite of what you think on a car. When the air is flowing through, it's actually getting drawn through this way. Now on this tractor, some they're the other way around. The motor sits the other direction and it sucks in through the front. But on this one, not so much. There's a babble, huh? Coming through. got a little. I'm gonna throw one more piece on that. Actually, is the front cam all the way? I might put a little bit more shimmy in there. Yeah, well, one more. You can kind of move it around a little bit, but it doesn't have the rattle space that it used to have. That's fine. I don't want to bind on it too much and cause an issue. I figured we might as well work our way forward. And one of the things that still needs to be done is the foot treads that go here. I peeled off what I could peel off of them. You can see the rust and everything that was underneath. I was gonna go and put some new material on, and I knew I had this sitting at home, and it has probably been hanging on a nail for about 15 years. I'm like, well, I only got one of them. And as I was looking at it, I think the glue might have given up a little while ago. Not that we can't spray glue the back of it and cut them out and try to make them, but there's not enough for both of them anyway. So I looked in the stash a little bit more. I found a roll that is 4-inch wide, and this stuff is probably 2. So I could either do stripes of it, or we can try this. I don't think anybody will tell if it's. This one's probably fine. Yeah. Let's do the top with these, and we'll try to use the fat roll for the bottom section. So how's that sound? We'll spray glue the back of it. I'm gonna go cut out a couple paper dolls and see how we make out. Let's see, we need to go in there. There. A little fine tuning on that one might be in order. I think I lost my line. Go cut it a little large with some working room. And we will call it there. Call it right there. Leave that one folded so we don't lose our line. See how bad this stuff is. Oh. It's upside down. Doesn't matter. We think nail it. It needs to come this way a little bit, but I don't think we're going to do anything about that. Getting too picky. Gonna do the same on the other side. Probably should have nipped the corners. I'll do that on the other one. I'll nib the little edges. Both of the fronts are done. The back side, on the other hand, I think we're going to kind of want to make a better pattern for it. So I got to cut it on 4 sides. And it should be, I think, the same pattern. You just have to flip it over for the other side. Just to remember when I cut it, though, that I don't make 2 of the same. Done that a time or 2. Let me see what we call it. think the rust bubbles are getting us. I think if we get that done, that'll be close enough. If I play my cards right, if I screw it up, I should have enough to make one more. But let's not try and screw it up. It has to be like this. Okay. Let's go with that. Come on. That's what happens. You're working with paper and not a construction paper, you know. Should just hit it with spray paint. We need one of those. Always cut on the inside of the line. If not, every time you trace, it's going to get larger and larger. You know what I mean? Unless you're doing a hole in the center, and then it's going to get smaller and smaller. You like it? And that's why they call it contact cement. One more to go. Now you need to make it look like that. So I want that pattern there. I need that made like that. 50% chance I got that right. That looks better. Even comes with the optional factory drain hole so moisture doesn't stay there. And pretty good. So I got the battery to install, and I think we had to make a hold down. I don't think it had a hold down for it. We probably maybe cut up a piece of angle. And sheet metal tins around the engine yet. What else we got? I got to get tires for the front of it at some point. But I think that's it. I think we could button up the sheet metal on the nose. Once the engine's put together, we got to do the clutch and measure the clutch. Well, I'm going home for tonight. It's late. I think it's around 10 o'clock. And should be able to pick this up tomorrow morning and hopefully get it knocked out. And yes, the plow parts are painted. And the plow blade. Not going crazy. It's going to get beat up as soon as I go to use it, but at least it's uniform and makes a nice slippery surface on the front for a little while until the rocks start doing that. And it's the next day. I am well refreshed. Let's go and get the tins on around the exhaust, which is going to be these two pieces and that part right there, and work our way to getting the electric clutch set up and adjusted on there. Let's see if we can figure this out. So that one probably goes I don't know. Okay, see, that one goes right there. And I would surmise that the other one goes. So I might have to take that choke cable off. Yeah, let me get that choke cable out of the way. Let's figure out how this one wiggles its way home. Take that has to come out, and that's ground. I'm gonna go take these two back out, maybe lay them over the top. Yeah, and those two are bolted on, and then this one is right there. A couple screws in that. Let's see about getting that clutch on. The key in there. I think that key needs a little love with the wire wheel. Let's see if we get that clutch on there. So the clutch has two sections. The outer hub that spins free, then an inner section that's keyed, and it has a magnet on it. So the keyed part is what we need to go on the back, and then it's going to bolt to the 4 bolts around that. So the direction is going to be, the wider bolt pattern goes up. There we go. And we're going to rotate it. Actually, we are going to have to start it and spin the motor. Do a little cleaning on some stuff. Gotta clean my hole. Try that again. Yep, that one. The key lifted up. Rotate that, make sure the parts are facing in the right direction. That's the power wire. 4 bolts. Suck that flange back down. Got one to go there too. Alright, so it's bolted down to 4 on the outside and then 1 in the center. It's essentially 2 pieces, and one section of it is keyed to the engine and the other one floats. This outer pulley floats. There's a reason why you can't turn it. It's meant so that you can't turn it. And I'll explain that in a second. So, wire coming off of it. If you apply 12 volts to it, it energizes the coil. You see this moving back and forth? That's energizing a coil. And what that does is it draws it towards the part of the engine that's spinning all the time, and that makes it so engaged. So when you put power to it, it engages it and allows this to be tied to the motor. When this is in the relaxed position with no power on it, it rests against, it's spring loaded against the brake shoe. And that brake shoe stops the pulley from turning. And again, for that is, in case of emergency, you want to go shut a mower deck off or snowblower off, you want it to stop as quick as possible. You don't just want to let it freewheel. So it's kind of like a car clutch, you know, principle as far as how it puts the pressure on. It's done electrically instead of a mechanical arm pushing on it. So that's how that operates. Now, the next thing that needs to be done is there's a gap, an air gap between the back disc that's spinning on the engine and the one that's on here that gets drawn to it. There's 3 locations. There's a slot here, there's one below, and there's one on the other side that you put a feeler gauge in, and you can adjust that dimension so that you have a nice even pull on it, and that the gap is a correct amount away. If you get too far away, the magnet may actually have times. Sometimes you'll find where PTO works and doesn't work, it's worn so far that the magnet can't pull it off the springs and up against it. It's just too far of a distance. Kind of like when you're putting a magnet something together, and then all of a sudden you get close enough in it and it draws it together. Well, if you're way out here, it's just too far away to draw it in. I'm going to go look up what that is. We're going to get a feeler gauge. We're going to go adjust it, and it's adjusted by these 3 nuts with the springs behind them. That just dictates the position of it. Alright, so it's 18 thou. That's what we're looking for. Make sure I get the right wrench for these. So we're going to just go poke the back of it. Get in your hole. Make it a little too tight. Go check another spot. That one's good. On this one, so 18 thou, it's a little on the tight side, but you get the idea. So I'm going to go back that off a hair, and kind of one affects the others a little. Once you start to the point where you're fine-tuning, it's not so bad. And then just a little bit more. There you go, now it fell right out. So I'm going to go around, dance around between the 3 of those and get that gap even at 18 all the way around. It's a little hard to set you up with a camera, not block your view, so pardon me if I do. There we go, now we're in. Let's go back out here. Oh, that one good. The bottom one, a little tricky on the access. Just go back it off. This is the feeler gauge goes in. And like I said, sometimes it'll affect the other one, especially if it's really, you know, kittywampus. So I'm just going to go back around again. That's now one super loose. And that one's super loose. I think the one that was out of whack screws up the other one. So you just kind of go back and forth, kind of like adjusting carburetors, more than one carburetor. You adjust one, then you have to go back. So we're going to go fire it a couple times and let it settle again. I'm just going to go back with the feeler gauge again. That one's a hair loose. That one's fine. That one's a hair tight. But I think if we adjust this one a little tighter, the bottom one may come in. There we go. Let's go check the bottom again. Yeah, so that was just loose a second ago. Now it's got good drag on it. So I like that one. I like that one. Let's give her a couple of clicks. Hair loose. I'm probably gonna run it too. Let me check it. That one's good. A little tight. We're gonna go a little tighter on this one. I think we're just gonna call it. Leave it right there. Done. And I hooked the battery pack up, and the jumper wire, the power wire rather, is hooked up. We should get, there you go. And you can see the PTO light coming on. So all that is functional. Again, with the snowblower, with the plow, not needed. But if I go to put the snowblower on it during the winter time, we will need that part of it. I don't ever see it getting a mower deck back on it again, but who knows. We can throw that choke cable back on and set it up. Generally, there's usually a set of witness marks where it was, but I'm going to go with all the way off. Which is all the way in on the lever. And I want to see that that throttle plate is straight up and down in that position. That choke plate rather, straight up and down. And when we get that done, we're just going to double check, pull it out, make sure it gets a full close. And it snaps this straight up and down. With the air cleaner. And let's get that back on. I'm going to close the choke just in case you make a boo-boo and drop something down inside. I'm try getting that vent tube on. Breather, rather. That's in. Get another hose in the far corner coming up to draw air. Draws the air from where the fan is. Get a little hoodie. And a little hoodie needs a bath. Doesn't look much different. Those three hold it down, and there's two more. Screws, one for there, one for there. I just saw them. Yeah, I believe that is the wrong element for it. It does not fit down like it should. And sometimes they had, you take this cover off, there was another lid that went on the top of it. I have to do a little bit of homework. But we get it to sit right. It is squishing down on the element all the way around. So the air is filtered. It's just that it's going to allow air coming in from around the sides instead of in the back, that's all. They have a little fire in the hole. Choke off. now the air cleaner is on and everything's put back together, you kind of fine tune the car. I want to turn the idle up a little. And adjust the air fuel mix. Fire that clutch a couple of times. There it goes. So I put the battery in it, but it was missing a hold down. So I see we make a hold down, a piece of angle, and some threaded rod. Good as new. That should do it. That's the headlights. It's got a couple of LEDs in the front. You may want to wash that lens a little. The middle one just has no bulb in it, but it does have 3 going across. And yes, even the taillights work. You thought I forgot about it, didn't you? That was bothering you. Woohoo! A little strategic weld couldn't fix. One down, one to go.
we were going along, and I think the mower deck seized up, and it shut everything down, and I wasn't quick enough shutting the clutch off.
Okay.
And it just stopped though, and it's got no power now, and I have the books for it, and it said the 20 amp fuses in there.
Okay.
Probably what's blown.
So after the deck locked up, you shut it off, then you went to go restart it, and just nothing was working.
Nothing works.
Okay. These are nice tractors.
It's a nice tractor. But
So ta-da! Well guys, I think we've made it to the end. Other than getting a set of tires for it, chains still have to go on, and I need a seal in the one of the hydraulics in the front. That coupler, quick coupler, has a slight leak at times. But it seems like it functions, does everything it should, and should be a functioning part of society in tractor world once again. So with that guys, I'm going to go sign off. I want to thank you all for kind of going through this project with me. It was a fun one to do. It had a bunch of curves in it, but we got it pretty much straightened out. So may see it back again in wintertime for a little quick video with pushing some snow around, see how it functions, and possibly throwing the snowblower on it. But until then, I will see you guys on the next one. Later.